Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Talk of the Town. Glad you're here with us this week, and I'm glad that the person sitting in this chair is with us here this week because this is the first time I've been able to get him in this chair. And I'm so glad we finally wrestled you in here. Let me introduce you to somebody. This is Mr. Jonathan Davis, and he is the Vice President of Technology and Campus Safety here at Cleveland Community College. And every time I talk to you, your title is changing, and it just gets better and better and better. This is awesome.
Yeah, but hopefully shorter and shorter.
Shorter. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, for everybody back home, I've known Jonathan Davis forever, and he's clearly one of my favorite people because I'm picking on him. But I am really glad that you're on the show today, and I'm really excited about the topic we've got today,
Yes.
which is just in general security, technology security, cybersecurity, because I know everybody in the world is watching their TV.
Yeah,
and they
only mildly important.
Well, they should probably turn their TVs off and just go hide somewhere. but it is an important topic, and so I'm really glad to have you here because I can't think of anybody better to talk to about this.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And so I know a lot about you, but everybody out there is going, who is that? So tell us a little bit about yourself, like a lot about yourself.
Oh, no, just a little. So my name is Jonathan Davis, and I've been here at the college for about 20 years. I started out as an adjunct here at the college, taught part-time back in 2003, 2004, and then in 2005 I came full-time to the college and went through instruction, a grant role, and now in an IT role, and evolved that into campus safety as well. So I've been here about 20 years, and cybersecurity is part of what I oversee here at the college.
Just a small part.
It's just a small part of what we oversee.
Just a small part, which we all know you're lying. But anyway, I know that even people that don't, have any desire to be a nerd or a techie or anybody, we all use now in our world, no matter how little we think of technology, we use it. It's invaded every corner, every aspect of our lives pretty much. So this topic just gets more and more and more and more important as time goes by. So I know there are folks out there who are wondering to themselves, I hear all of these things. What can I do? Is there anything I can do? How can I know my footprint? Am I okay? Am I not okay? How do I know when I'm not okay? What are all these texts that show up on my phone telling me, hey, you got to call this number, you got to go to this place, you got to do this thing? And it's incessant, isn't it?
It is, and the thing about it is nowadays you do not necessarily have to be, in the IT world or using a computer or using a phone to be susceptible to cybersecurity risk and threats, because your data is with all of these companies, the hospitals, where you bank, your credit card, where you do business. They have your information on file, and they're susceptible to all of these cybersecurity risks. So what happens is that hackers get your information from them, and using that information, they can move from account to account or impersonate you, steal your identity, access your other accounts using the information that they have, call you and get you to give them more information because they have a certain amount of information about you already, convincing you that maybe I'm from your credit card company, or I'm from your bank. Can you, I need to help secure your account. Can you give me this information? Oh, this, just to make sure I've got you right, Mr. Putnam. Are you, Steve Putnam, and do you live at X? Okay, so you feel like I know more information about you, and all I'm doing is establishing a rapport with you so that I can get you to give me even more information that I need to get into your other accounts.
Well, that's just not fair.
It's not fair.
That's just not right, because you get those calls, they do know that about you, or you get those texts, they know a lot about you. That does build levels of trust, because that's what we used to be told to do. To only call back to a number or reach out to somebody. And if they understand these things, then yes, you can deal with that person. Well, now you can't. How do we know? How do we protect ourselves against this?
Well, step number one, hang up the phone. If someone's calling you, you can count how many times you've ever received a call from your bank. It's just not, it doesn't happen. Not to say that it won't happen, just saying usually it doesn't. But if you do get a call from your bank, what you'd want to do is just hang up the phone, and call your bank at the number that you know is your bank and say, hey, just got a call from whatever they said their name was, and it didn't sound right. So I told them, look, I'm going to hang up the phone. I'm going to call my bank, and I'll work with my bank at the number that I know to work with my bank at. So that would be step number one.
That's awesome. Because that's so simple, but yet that is extremely effective. So, how do you get that message out to what I see as the most vulnerable population? Like, for instance, when I used to teach here, one of the things I did was I would teach senior citizen classes. And back then, really the things that I taught them was like how to set up good passwords and stuff like that. But now, the things that I taught them won't help today because of what you just described. If you've got someone in your life that's going to get that phone call that you think may actually talk to them, that conversation really needs to happen, doesn't it, with your extended family members?
It absolutely does, and the way that I like to phrase it here is that we're all responsible for cybersecurity. Yes, we have an information security officer here on campus. Yes, I'm responsible for information security. But every employee and every student at the college is responsible for their own cybersecurity, and since they are the front line of defense, that's each individual student, each individual employee is the step into the door for a hacker. So if I can get your account here at the college or my account here at the college, then I've got a foot in the door. So at home with your family members, with your mother, father, grandfather, grandmother, talk about information security. Even if they do not use computers or they're not savvy on it, they need to understand, especially about social engineering and what people will pretend to be to our more vulnerable populations that might fall victim to trusting these people that call them on the phone that already have a certain amount of information about them.
Right. Because if nothing else, you need to tell those individuals, reach out to me. Give them someone within the family to reach out to. Hey, this person called, or I got this email. Because email is just as bad, if not worse, than phone calls. If they get an email that says you have to do blah blah blah, they don't really have to do anything but click on something, and their whole world comes unglued. But that person within the family, that contact, is really what they should do to reach out.
Yeah, and something you can do for folks that just do not have a lot of experience on the computer is go ahead and set that computer up with a limited user account for them. So they're not using that computer as an administrator on that account. So maybe, if I'm giving a computer to my mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, I would set that up with an account for them. I would have an administrator account that I would keep the password to, store it somewhere safe. And their account would be limited so that they can't get into but so much trouble with installing stuff on the computer.
Right, and that goes for really any type of technology like that where they're accessing the internet. And that brings us to the internet because the internet is a whole other ball of wax. When you talk about this, just for a moment, because people may not be aware of this, describe to us the part of the internet that we use and then the vast depth of the internet beyond that most people are completely unaware of.
Yep. So, everybody's familiar with using websites that they're used to. Their Facebook, your X, your Instagram. Social media is like 98% of the internet right now. YouTube, for example. But then there's this whole other aspect of the internet that's dark, and they call it the dark web. And that's where all the hackers exchange information about what they have found from their exploits of companies and individuals, and they sell this information, vast quantities of information with leaked passwords and leaked social security numbers that they've just stored in databases and that they've been able to collect from everywhere that there has been an exploit. So, what I recommend to folks is to check to see if you've been a victim of a known leak, a known hack. Go to www.haveibeenpwned.com, and that's haveibeenpwned.com. And I think we're going to put that there on the screen.
It's up on the screen right now.
And you'll put your email address in there, and then it will come back and tell you all of the different places on the web that email address has been associated with a breach in security.
Wow. And if you do that and it comes back with a laundry list of things, I mean, should you panic? What do you do? Who do you reach out to? Where can you go from there?
Yeah, so each breach will tell you what was leaked in that breach. So it could be just your email address, just your first name, last name, but it also might have been your password, your credit card numbers, your personal address. I mean, there's a lot of things that the company might have lost inside of a leak. So you need to look at each individual one. You know, maybe I'm not going to give any company names, but you'd see the company name, you'd see the email address that you just typed in, and you'll see all of the information, not the actual information, but the elements, the variables that they were able to get
from that place.
And from there, you can then say, well, how vulnerable am I? First, you probably need to change your password on that account. And use different passwords for different accounts so that you're not, check to make sure, and this is really big, is that the email address, make sure that is a completely different password than what you use for any of the other accounts. Because if I have your email address and I have your password that you used for this or that bank or this or that social media website that I was able to hack, well, I'm going to try that password on your email account. And from there, I can do password resets on many websites. I can look through your email and see what accounts does this person have, who's he getting email from, and then I can turn around and exploit those accounts to gain even more access to your accounts. So separate password for all your services. Use a password manager if you have to, like LastPass or RoboForm. There's some other ones out there.
Right.
And then make sure that you protect these accounts with what's called multi-factor authentication, so that you get a text or you have an authentication app where you have to use biometric authentication to complete a login. So you don't just need a password to sign into your email or your bank. You also need to be able to get that text and type in a 6-digit number.
Gotcha. Well, at biometrics and 6-digit numbers, we're going to take a break, but we're going to pick right back up there when we come back, because people may be going, what is he talking about? So we're going to talk a little more about that when we come back. But we do have to take a break. So if you drift away, go to the refrigerator, be sure to come back, because there's more Talk of the Town right after this.
Someone once said that without music, life would be a mistake. And that's how we feel here on Face the Music. Hi, I'm Summer Castle-Keever, and I'd love for you to join me each month on our new program, Face the Music, which airs on C19 TV and C19.tv. Each month, we'll highlight the talents, personalities, and stories behind some of the area's most gifted singers, songwriters, and musicians. It's going to be a lot of fun, so join me each month for a new edition of Face the Music right here on C19.
Every day is different. You have the ability to forge your own path. The industry's wide open. You've always got job security. And also write your own paycheck. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Probably not. I have to study for my exams next week, and my dad would kill me.
I can't make it. I've got a big game tomorrow night. I want to make sure I'm in good shape.
No, I'm good. I don't want to get in trouble. My parents would kill me.
Nah, I gotta fill out scholarship applications.
Everyone has at least one good reason to stay away from drugs and alcohol. Find your reason today and get back to enjoying life.
Hi, I'm Shara Miller, the host of Artworks. Each month we bring to you wonderful, talented artists from here in Cleveland County and the region. We have artists, we have potters, we have painters, we have musicians, we have actors. We just have wonderful artists that come to you and tell you about all that they're doing, their creativity, what inspires them. Join me here on Artworks each month on C19. You can also watch us online at c19.tv.
Hello again and welcome back to Talk of the Town. Glad you made it back for the second half of the show. And if we left you confused and befuddled right before the break, we're going to try to clear that up because I think the last words out of his mouth were biometric authentication, in which some people probably just said tilt, and rolled right out of their chair. So tell us a little bit about what biometric authentication and some of this stuff that which is a really good idea. That's why I want them to understand it. Two-factor authentication really just messes their world up when it comes to trying to hack your accounts. I mean, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so two-factor authentication really means that it's your password plus something else. Two-factor or multi-factor, meaning I've got my email address, my login, my username, and then I've got a password. But in addition to my password, which I know and I type in, that somebody else can know and type in if I lose it somehow, I've got either my phone with me that is my second factor. Okay, so I type my password, but then I've set my email account up to text me a number so that I have to type that number in addition to my password in order to get into my email. And that number is rotating. So it's different. Every 30 seconds, every minute, that number changes. It rotates to a different number so that it's never the same. The biometric authentication is a little bit simpler than what it sounds. Really what that means with your phone is it's just using your camera to look at your face to make sure that it's you, just like your phone does when you know, some people have it set up to Face ID, where you just look at the phone and it unlocks. Same thing, that's biometric authentication. It's using your person, something about you, your fingerprint, your face, facial recognition, to log you into the device. And some authentication apps like Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, and these others that are out there can use biometric authentication to get you into your accounts. So that's your second factor. You got your username, you got your password, and you got something else. That's the multi-factor.
Right, and that's what I wanted you to make clear, because it's not as spooky as it sounds or as strange. It really is something. And most of these larger providers like Google and so forth that you mentioned allow you to do that to get into their email accounts, don't they?
Yes. So, you know, Google, Facebook, Microsoft with your Hotmail, your Live.com, all of these can be set up to get multi-factor authentication. So how you would do that is sign into your account, go to your profile, and then look for the password and security section. Or in some services, it might be called multi-factor or second factor authentication. Turn that on, set it up to connect to your phone. You might have to put your phone number in. You might have to download the Microsoft Authenticator or the Google Authenticator app and connect it up. And if you need help with that, just get someone in your family or someone who's done it before, because now a lot of these services require it. Like you can't even use them if you don't have the second factor or multi-factor authentication turned on. So that's a good thing. It's not 100% secure because of social engineering and the fact that I can use a text or get you to give me that number over a telephone call, and you might do that. If I convince you to do that, then I can still get into your account, but it's far, far, far more secure than just your password alone.
Right, and that's why it thwarts a lot of the things that would try to come against you. So if you can do that and manage that as a part of your regular routine, and then resist the temptation to respond to those emails or those phone calls without involving someone you know and trust to help you, that really does go a long way to help your personal security, doesn't it?
Absolutely. If someone calls you and you don't know them or trust them, hang up the phone. Don't give any personal information over the phone. Call your bank directly. Call the companies that you work with directly. Hang up the phone and dial the number yourself. Delete the email. Don't respond to it. Only respond to people you know and trust. Don't give any personal information out over an email, especially passwords or account information or social security numbers. Keep all of that private and work with your bank either in person or call them directly.
Right, because no one who's legitimate will ever ask you for personal information over an email.
That's right.
Period.
That's right.
Ever. All right. Or a text. So, all right. So we're going to go from that to, I guess, broadening the circle a little bit, because I know one of our topics today was just all of this news that's swirling in the world about hackers in general. I know we've touched a little bit on that, but there's some hot button topics that I know people hear a lot about in the news. in regards to cybersecurity, our national interests, our nationals. What's happening from your perspective? Because I know you have your finger on the pulse, even more so than most do, and in terms of your position here, because this college is part of that broader, that broader, I guess, community that you have to protect against because of your responsibilities here. So, what's happening?
So, I think that, modern warfare is cyber warfare. And, we've got a country, we've got borders. The United States is blessed being very, very far away and segmented from some of these places that are out to get us, so to speak. But on the internet, that brings our border right up to their border. And the hackers on this side and the hackers on this side are in close proximity, and they are at work at it. So one of the more recent hacks was the, I can't remember what they're calling it, like something typhoon out of China. They got a special name for it. But, in that hack, the Chinese hackers were actually able to compromise and get access to the back door of telecom companies that's used by these telecom companies to get the government to get warrants to get access to the back door to monitor communications. I hope that makes sense. So basically, because they have access into this system that gives them a back door to be able to put surveillance on voicemails, text, telephones, voice, all of that stuff to millions and millions of people's devices, that's a pretty big deal. Not only that, but they're, as of the last I had heard, they had not gotten them out of this system yet. So they were still trying to figure out how to get this system secure. So you've got that. You've got you've got the issue with help me out here, Steve. What's another issue with China that's recently come up?
Oh, they have
the TikTok issue.
The TikTok issue, our infrastructure issue. I keep hearing about how they've implanted time bombs and certain other little fabulous tools into all of our electrical and basic infrastructures of the country. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So one that I think people might have heard the most about is the TikTok ban. And
TikTok for sure.
And that one's gone back and forth. Most recently, TikTok was saved in the U.S. just to keep them running. We'll see how long that lasts. The whole issue there is that TikTok is owned by a Chinese company, and in China, there is no company that owns anything that the government doesn't control.
So glad you said that.
If the government has to ask, if the government asks TikTok for this information, according to Chinese law, they have to comply and have to give it to them. So, when you install an app on your phone, this app asks you, do you want to have access to location services? Do you want to have access to the camera's phone, to the camera's microphone? What about the pictures that are stored on this device? And so we give these apps under our own accord, just by hitting the, allow button, we give these apps access to a lot of information about us. And that information, when culminated together, becomes very dangerous in the hands of a foreign government like China. So if you can imagine, for instance, everybody in Washington, D.C., it's becoming very popular to have a social media account, including TikTok, because that's where the young folks are. And so everybody in Washington, D.C., having this app on their phone that they've given access to their camera, they've given access to their location services, so all of a sudden I can see where people are in real time, live. And that, while they don't care about Jonathan in Shelby, North Carolina, they might have a lot more interest from a national security perspective into where are our representatives in government. So that's the whole deal about TikTok is giving that information to China in the hands of a foreign government. That information is very powerful and can be used against us to inflict great harm.
And I know we've all seen I thought of an analogy because I think people don't give it the seriousness that it's due, because we've all seen the shows where there's a lawyer who's suing another lawyer, and to to confound them and confuse them, they'll snowball them. They'll send thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of documents when information is requested, and they'll put the one thing they requested somewhere inside those thousands, hoping that they'll miss it or just look at the whole pile of it and give up in frustration, because humans can't possibly get through that much information. So we're thinking, well, my tiny little TikTok account's really not going to amount to anything. I'm just doing my thing over here. China doesn't care about me. But then you have this reported story that they have actually made leaps and bounds in developing DeepSeek, which is AI. AI has the capacity to handle vast quantities of information like that. And we thought as a country we were throttling their capacity to do this, only to find out that doing whatever they've done, they've surpassed us.
Yeah.
And so now suddenly all of this information that they're gathering seems to be within the grasp of reality of them actually applying that kind of power to it to sift through all of that information to find whatever they're looking for, which, like you said, is a really powerful tool for a country that looks at us with at least suspicion and sometimes aggression and whatever else they're thinking. They're clearly not in our corner, and they're trying to either glean as much from us as they can or actually position themselves against us. It can be very dangerous, can't it?
It absolutely can, and there's a lot of information that's left, I think, to find out about DeepSeek. But what we're talking about here is, we have ChatGPT that was developed in the United States. We have a few other, artificial intelligence technologies, software platforms that are large language models that we have that require a lot of computing power. And so, in order to thwart China's progress in this, to keep the United States as one of the leaders in this area, we said, well, let's just prevent China from being able to have access to these special chips that they need from whichever company's making these nice GPUs, right? So that they can't progress. And because of that, we limited them. Well, necessity became the mother of invention, and they turn around and figure out a way to do it, supposedly, with a tenth of the less processing power, is what I understand.
That's what I'm hearing.
And they have tried to develop in the process of developing their own chip, can't remember what it's called, that's supposedly going to be 50 times more powerful than the chip that we have prevented them from accessing.
It's a brave new world.
It is.
Or
You ready?
scary new world.
Are you ready?
Gosh, I feel like we're just scratching the surface. You know what that means, though, don't you?
What's that?
You have to come back.
Okay. I can do that.
Because see, now people are going, okay, he's going to have to explain that again. So yes, we have to have you back, but thank you for being on our show today. This has been really, really awesome. It can be a little scary, but it's good to know that there are ways that we can protect ourselves. And thank you for sharing
Absolutely.
that with
Hopefully,
us
there's
today.
a little something in there for
a little
everybody.
sunshine, a little ray of sunshine. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate
You're welcome.
it. All right, and thank you for being here, because we don't have a show if you don't watch the show. We also don't have a show if you don't watch it to the end. So we're really glad that you did both, that you showed up and you stayed with us. We also need story ideas. So if you look right here at C19, info@c19.tv, that's how you can email, securely of course, those story ideas to us, and then we can get those individuals here so that we can share with everyone in Cleveland County what you and I already know. It's a great place, a wonderful place to live, filled with wonderful ideas and filled with wonderful people. But until next time, this is Steve Putnam thanking our guest and thanking you for being here, and hoping that see you again soon right here on Talk of the Town.